I keep sending the message in all directions, Nami said. Her voice bubbled through the water. I use every frequency we know, but no one answers. Yesterday, 3 large ships from the Galactic Consortium had passed through their system, the sea. Consortium united hundreds of advanced species who traveled between stars as easily as Thrillians, once swam between islands. Surely they had seen Vosh's dying state. Surely they had heard the calls for help, but they had passed by without stopping, just like all the others before them. Play the last message we sent, Ela said. Nami pressed a series of shells that controlled their simple technology. A voice filled the water around them, speaking the common language of space. This is Vosh, home of the Thrillians. Our sun is dying. Radiation poisons our waters. We have no way to leave. Please help us. We offer friendship and gratitude in return. Simple words. A simple plea. Yet none had answered. 10 years ago, a small consortium ship had actually stopped. The tall, air-breathing aliens had studied the Thrillians, taken samples of their DNA, and asked many questions. The Thrillians had been hopeful then. Finally, someone had noticed them. But the aliens had left with a cold message. Your species lacks the adaptability and technological potential to contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization. Resource allocation for rescue cannot be justified. In the simple words of space, travelers, they weren't worth saving. Tay, the youngest council member, swam into the dome. His skin flashed quick patterns of blue and green. Urgency. The northern waters are showing increased radiation, he reported. The shields we built cannot hold much longer. Ela nodded slowly. How many cycles do we have? 12, maybe less, Tay said. His colors dimmed to a sad blue. We should tell the people. Not yet, Ela decided. Let them have one more day without fear. Outside the council dome, life continued in the cramped northern waters. The Thrillians had once numbered in the millions spread across vast oceans. Now fewer than 10,000 remained, all packed into this small safe zone. Children played games of current chasing, their small bodies zooming through water tunnels. Farmers tended the fast-growing kelp and coral that provided food. Builders worked to reinforce the radiation shields that bought them precious time. None of them spoke about the end they all knew was coming. Jun, the history keeper, approached Ela as she left the dome. His old body moved slowly through the water, trailing bubbles. I have finished recording our final history, he said, holding up a data crystal that glowed softly in the dim water. Everything we were, everything we learned, everything we created, it's all here. Who will read it? Ela asked quietly. Jun's colors shifted to a determined purple. Someone will. Someday. He attached the crystal to the strongest broadcasting buoy they had built. I have programmed it to activate when the waters become too toxic for life. It will float to the surface and send our story to the stars. Even now, in their final days, the Thrillians refused to disappear without leaving something behind. Ela swam to the highest point in their settlement, a clear dome that looked up through the water to the stars above. Night was falling on Vosh, and the first bright points of light appeared in the darkening sky. So many stars, so many worlds, so many species traveling between them, and not one would stop to save the Thrillians. We were too peaceful, perhaps, Ela whispered to herself. We never built weapons or warships. We never threatened anyone. We only made beautiful things and studied the life in our seas. Below her, the last Thrillian city glowed with soft biolights. Families gathered for evening meals. Teachers shared knowledge with students who might never grow old. Artists created beauty that might never be seen by others. They continued living even as death approached. What else could they do? Ela's colors shifted to a deep, calm blue. Whatever happened, her people would face it with dignity. They would not rage or break or turn on each other in their final days. And perhaps, she thought, as she gazed at the distant stars, that itself was worth something. Even if the great galactic consortium couldn't see it, the stars looked different from deep space. Captain June stood on the bridge of the horizon, Earth's first true starship. The viewing window showed countless points of light against the black. Somewhere far behind them was the sun that warmed Earth. Ahead lay the unknown. June was a serious man with short black hair and tired eyes. He hadn't slept well since leaving Earth's solar system. The weight of command kept him awake. 200 crew members depended on him in this vast emptiness. "Captain," called Lieutenant Hana, "I'm picking up something strange." June walked to her station. Hana was the best communications officer in the fleet, which wasn't saying much since Earth had only built 3 starships so far. "Look at this pattern," she said, pointing to her screen. "It repeats every 12 seconds. June watched the waveform pulse on the display. "Is it natural?" "No way," Hana said, shaking her head. "It's too regular. This is a signal from someone." The bridge grew quiet. Earth had made contact with 3 alien species so far, but all meetings had been arranged by the Galactic Consortium, the organization of advanced species that controlled this part of space. The consortium treated humans like children, allowing them limited travel rights and basic trading. Finding a new signal on their own was unexpected. "Can you clean it up?" June asked. Hana worked her controls. "There. I can hear something now." A voice came through the speakers. It was distorted and strange, but clearly a voice. It spoke simple words in the common space language. "Help. Vosh dying. Please help us." June felt a chill. "How old is this message?" Hana checked readings on her screen. "Based on signal. Degradation. Approximately 47 years old, Captain." 47 years, June repeated quietly. "And still broadcasting." Officer Bin, the ship's navigator, looked up from his station. "Captain, this isn't on our approved flight path. The consortium was clear about where we can go, that was true. Humans were still on probation with the galactic community. The Horizon was only allowed to visit specific systems on this mission." June stared at the signal pattern still pulsing on the screen. 47 years of calling for help. "Plot a course to the signal source," he ordered. Bin looked surprised. "Sir, that would violate our—" "I know what it violates," June said firmly. "Plot the course anyway." 3 days later, the Horizon entered orbit around a dying world. The planet Vosh looked sick, its oceans a strange color, its atmosphere thin and full of radiation. "Life signs?" June asked. Science Officer Jin studied her readings. "Yes, but only at the northern pole, a small population of aquatic life forms. They've built some kind of settlement underwater." "Any other ships in the area?" "No, but—" Jin paused. "Captain, I'm detecting residual engine signatures. Many ships have passed through this system recently." "None stopped." June frowned. "They heard the call for help and ignored it?" "It appears so. The crew prepared a communication probe. They couldn't land on the water planet. The Horizon wasn't built for that. But they could send down a device to establish contact. When the probe reached the underwater settlement, it transmitted images back to the ship. The aliens were beautiful in a strange way. Sleek bodies with blue-green skin that seemed to change colors. They had 4 limbs that worked as both arms and fins, and large eyes adapted for seeing underwater. "They're trying to communicate with—" "The probe," Hana reported. "I'm translating now." An alien face appeared on the main screen. It was old with faded colors and wise eyes. "I am Ela of the Threlian Council," the alien said. "Who speaks to us after so long?" June stepped forward. "I am Captain June of the Earth ship Horizon. We heard your distress call." The alien's skin rippled with colors. "Earth? We do not know this world." "We're new to space travel," June explained. "We only left our solar system 3 months ago." Ela seemed confused. "You are not part of the consortium?" "We have contact with them, but we're not full members yet. They consider us primitive." The alien was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "If you are so new to the stars, why did you come? The consortium has ignored our calls for help for generations. They decided we were not worth saving." June didn't hesitate. "Because you need help. That's enough reason for us." The colors on Ela's skin shifted to bright patterns. "Your vessel, can it carry all our people to safety?" June looked at his science officer. Jin shook her head slightly. "I don't know," June admitted. "But we're going to try. Tell me about your situation." The glow from Vosh's dying sun cast long shadows across the last habitable waters. Ela moved her four webbed limbs slowly, her blue-green skin reflecting the fading light. She was old now, her once bright scales dulled with age. As the eldest of the Threlian Council, she carried the weight of her dying people. The Threlians were water-dwellers, with smooth skin that changed colors with their moods. They had wide eyes adapted to see in deep water, and four limbs that served as both arms and fins. Once they had built beautiful cities across Vosh's vast oceans. Now those cities lay empty, poisoned by the growing radiation from their aging. Sundotila swam to the observation dome, where Nami worked at the communication station. The younger Thralian's skin showed patches of grey, the color of worry. Still nothing? Ela asked, though she saw the answer in Nami's colors. As Ela explained the Thralians' plight, their dying sun, the toxic waters, the years of ignored. Pleas for help. The Horizon's crew listened in growing anger and determination. 12 cycles, June repeated when she finished. How long is that in Earth days? Approximately 30 of your days, Jin translated. June nodded. Then we have 30 days to figure out how to save your people. For the first time in years, hope flickered in Ela's large eyes. Why would you do this when all others turned? Zwei? Because that's what humans do, June said simply. We help each other, and now that includes you. Engineer Day wiped sweat from his forehead as he looked at the large water tanks filling the Horizon's cargo bay. For 3 days straight, he had worked with his team to convert the ship's storage areas into living spaces for water-breathing aliens. His hands were raw from cutting metal and sealing joins, but he didn't complain. Every tank meant more lives saved. Will it hold? Asked Captain June, who had come to check on the progress. Day tapped one of the tanks. The water inside rippled. It's not pretty, but it's strong. We used the extra hull plating from the outer storage bays. The Horizon was an exploration vessel, never meant to carry thousands of refugees. Its crew of 200 barely had enough room for themselves. Now they were trying to make space for almost 10,000 water-breathing aliens. How many can we fit? June asked, looking around at the rows of tanks. Day's face fell. Maybe 3,000 if we pack them tightly. That's less than a third of the Thralians. June frowned. Not good enough. We need to save them all. Captain, I don't see how... Find a way, June said firmly. Talk to Yuna. She's working on something that might help. Day found Science Officer Yuna in her lab, surrounded by glowing screens. She barely looked up when he entered. How's the tank situation? She asked, still focused on her calculations. Bad, Day admitted. We can't fit them all, not even close. Yuna finally looked up, pushing her hair from her eyes. That's why I'm working on this. She pointed to a screen showing what looked like a sleeping Thralian. Biostasis. You want to freeze them? Day asked. Not exactly. Yuna pulled up more images. The Thralians have an interesting biology. In their history, their planet went through cold periods. They evolved a way to slow their life processes, almost like hibernation, but deeper. Can they still do that? I think so. With the right chemical triggers, we could put most of them into biostasis. Their bodies would need 90% less space and resources. Day looked impressed. Would it work? My simulations show an 89% survival probability, Yuna said. It's risky, but it's their best chance. Have you told the captain? Not yet. I wanted to be sure first. She looked at her screens again. But even with biostasis, we'd need to reconfigure the entire ship. Day thought for a moment. What if we use the shuttle bays too, and maybe part of the crew quarters? The crew wouldn't have much space left. They'll manage, Day said. We all will. As they worked on their plans, the Horizon received an unexpected transmission. A consortium vessel had detected them in orbit around Vosh, a planet humans weren't authorized to visit. On the bridge, Lieutenant Hana put the transmission on screen. A tall, thin alien with grey skin and multiple eyes looked out at them. Earth. Vessel Horizon, the alien said. You are in violation of your travel permissions. Explain your presence at Vosh. Captain June stepped forward. We received a distress call and came to help. The consortium representative made a sound like air escaping a balloon, their version of laughter. You came to rescue the Thralians? How amusing. We're planning their evacuation now, June said firmly. Your primitive vessel cannot possibly succeed where our advanced civilizations deemed rescue unfeasible, the alien replied. Your attempt, while admirably sentimental, is doomed to failure. June's face hardened. We'll take those odds. After the transmission ended, the bridge was quiet. Then Lieutenant Hana spoke up. Captain, there's something you should know. What is it? While the consortium representative was talking, I managed to access some of their open data channels. Hana looked troubled. I found reports about Vosh going back 50 years. And? The Thrillians weren't abandoned because their rescue was impossible. Hana's voice grew angry. They were abandoned because the cost-benefit analysis didn't favor intervention. They were deemed expendable. The crew looked shocked. Officer, Jin spoke first. You mean they could have saved them but decided it wasn't worth the expense? Exactly, Hana said. According to their calculations, the Thrillians had insufficient technological potential and limited genetic diversity. The cost of evacuation exceeded their projected value to galactic civilization. Captain June's hands tightened into fists. They measured the worth of an entire species and found them wanting. There's more, Hana continued. They've been monitoring the Thrillians' extinction, studying it. They have observation posts in distant orbit, recording everything. The bridge fell silent again. Then June looked around at his crew. Well, we're going to show them a different way of doing things. Humans don't abandon people because they're not valuable enough. He turned to his officers. I want every possible space on this ship converted for Thrillian transport. Crew quarters, storage bays, even the hydroponics garden, everything except essential systems. Sir, Officer Bin said, what about us? Where will the crew stay? We'll hot bunk if necessary, set up sleeping bags in the corridors. I don't care. June's eyes were determined. We have 30 days to save a species from extinction. Let's get to work. As the meeting ended, Engineer Day and Science Officer Yuna shared a look. Their plan had seemed impossible before. Now it felt like a sacred duty. We'll need to work around the clock, Day said. Yuna nodded. Then that's what we'll do. Together, they walked back to their stations, ready to attempt what the mighty consortium had declared couldn't or shouldn't be done. The evacuation began on the 20th day. For almost 3 weeks, the crew of the Horizon had worked without rest to prepare their ship. Now time was running out. Pilot Kai sat at the controls of the small shuttle, steering through heavy winds as he descended toward Vosh for the 10th time that day. The shuttle was only meant for short trips between ships, but it was the only way to transport the water-breathing Thrillians from their dying world to the Horizon. The planet below didn't look like the images in Earth's databases. The blue-green oceans had turned dark and angry. Huge waves crashed against crumbling shorelines. In the northern region, where the last Thrillians lived, the ice caps were breaking apart. This is worse than yesterday, Kai said into his comm. His hands gripped the controls tightly as the shuttle shook. The tectonic plates are shifting faster than we predicted, replied Science Officer Yuna from the Horizon. The planet's core is becoming unstable. Kai felt the ground shake as he landed the shuttle near the Thrillian evacuation point. The special water-filled transport containers were ready, with Thrillians already inside them. Each container could hold 20 Thrillians in a tight space. Loading now, Kai reported. How many more trips after this one? Captain June's voice came through the comm. At least 5 more, possibly 6. Kai frowned. The shuttle was already making strange noises. Its engines weren't designed for so many. Quick trips through a planet's atmosphere. But he wouldn't complain, not when lives depended on him. As the containers were loaded, Kai saw a group of Thrillian children watching him. Their skin colors shifted between blue and green. The colors of fear and hope. He smiled and waved at them. They waved back with their webbed hands. You'll be on the next trip, he promised them, though he wasn't sure they understood his words. The trip back to the Horizon was rough. Twice the shuttle dropped suddenly as atmospheric disturbances knocked it off course. But Kai managed to dock safely and unload his precious cargo. In the Horizon's converted cargo bay, Engineer Day directed the Thrillian containers to their assigned tanks. The ship was already packed beyond what anyone had thought possible. The crew's personal belongings had been removed to make space. Many crew members were sleeping in hallways or taking turns in the few remaining bunks. "How much more space can we make?" Captain June asked, looking at the crowded bay. Dai shook his head. "We've used everything, Captain. The only spaces left are essential ship systems." June nodded grimly. "And how many Threllians are still waiting on the surface?" "About 220, Day replied. "Mostly elders and children." The captain stared at the rows of tanks. Each one held Threllians in various states of biostasis. Their life processes slowed to need minimal water and oxygen. Science Officer Yuna's plan had worked better than expected, but they still needed more room. "Kai, get back down there," June ordered. "Load as many as you can. I'll figure something out by the time you return." As Kai's shuttle departed again, June called his senior officers to the bridge. They looked tired but determined. "We need more space," he told them. "I want options." Navigation Officer Sue spoke first. "Captain, we've analyzed our return journey requirements. If we jettison one of our main fuel tanks, we could convert that space for more Threllians." Lieutenant Hanna looked alarmed. "Without that fuel, we'd have to travel at reduced speed. The journey would take months longer. And our food supplies aren't calculated for such an extended trip," added Officer Jin June considered this. "What about our safety margin? The backup systems?" Engineer Day hesitated. "We could remove the backup life support system. That would create space for about 50 more Threllians. But without backups, if the main system fails..." Jin didn't finish the sentence. They all knew what it meant. June's comm beeped. It was Key from the surface. "Captain, the situation is deteriorating rapidly. The Threllian settlement is breaking apart. We need to evacuate now." As if to emphasize his words, a violent tremor shook the shuttle, visible on the video feed. "How many can you fit on this trip?" June asked. "Maybe 80 if we pack them in tight, but that still leaves over 100 down here." The bridge fell silent. Then a new voice joined the conversation, a consortium observer who had been monitoring their efforts from a safe distance. "Captain June, your attempt was admirable but clearly futile," the alien said. "You must accept that you cannot save them all. Take those you can and depart before Vosh's destruction endangers your own vessel." June's face hardened. He looked at his officers, then at the monitor showing the frightened Threllians waiting on the surface. "Jettison all non-essential equipment," he ordered firmly. "Personal items, backup systems, the auxiliary shuttle, everything, and prepare to dump our return fuel reserves." "Captain," protested Sue, "without those reserves, we can't guarantee making it back to Earth." "I'm aware," June replied. "But I won't leave anyone behind. Not a single one." The crew moved quickly, understanding what was at stake. Within an hour, they had cleared enough space for another 100 Threllians. From the observation deck of their vessel, the consortium representatives watched in disbelief as the humans sacrificed their own safety margin for strangers. "They are compromising their own survival chances," one observer noted. "This defies logical behavior protocols." Another observer's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. "Perhaps we have misunderstood these humans." As Kai's shuttle made its final approach to the horizon, carrying the last Threllian children and elders, planet Vosh began its final collapse. The northern ice cap split apart completely, sending tsunami waves across what remained of the oceans. The horizon pulled away just in time, its engines straining under the ship's new weight. Inside, humans and Threllians alike watched through viewing ports as Vosh, home to an ancient civilization, broke apart behind them. Captain June stood on the bridge, watching the sensors. Their fuel reserves were critically low. Their life support systems were operating at 150% capacity. The journey home would be long and dangerous, but when he walked through the crowded halls and saw the faces of his crew, tired but proud, he knew he had made the right choice. The journey back to Earth took 3 months longer than planned. The horizon limped through space, its engines running on minimal power to conserve their reduced fuel supplies. Inside the overcrowded ship, humans and Threllians worked together to survive. Captain June spent most days solving problems. Life support systems broke down twice. Food supplies ran dangerously low. The water recycling units needed constant maintenance to keep the Threllian tanks clean. But somehow, they made it. When the blue-green shape of Earth finally appeared on Their viewing screens. Both species celebrated in their own ways. Humans hugged and cried. Thrilians changed their skin to bright, pulsing colors of joy. "We're home," June announced over the ship's speakers. "All of us." The relief was short-lived. As the Horizon entered Earth orbit, they received not the heroes. Welcome they expected, but confused messages from Earth Command. "What do you mean you have 10,000 alien refugees?" asked the Earth Space Director, her face tight with worry on the video screen. "Where are we supposed to put them? We have no protocols for this." June had expected this reaction. Earth had only recently joined the galactic community. They had met only a few alien species so far, and those meetings were carefully controlled. By the consortium. "They need water to live," June explained patiently. "Salt water similar to Earth's oceans. We have about 6 days of life support left before we face a critical situation." The next days were tense. Earth governments argued about what to do. Some wanted to send the Thrilians to a consortium world. Others worried about diseases or cultural conflicts. Meanwhile, the story of the Horizon leaked to the public. News channels showed images of the Thrilians, their blue-green bodies graceful in water, their color-changing skin fascinating to watch. They broadcast Ila's simple words of thanks and explained how the consortium had abandoned her people to die. The public response surprised everyone. A famous oceanographer offered her research facility in Hawaii for temporary Thrilian housing. "They can use our deep tanks while we figure out something permanent," she said. Coastal cities around the world volunteered to host Thrilian families. Engineers from 3 continents began designing underwater living spaces. Children sent drawings welcoming the spacefish people to Earth. "The public support is overwhelming," the space director told June, looking both relieved and amazed. "I've never seen anything like it." 4 days later, the first Thrilians moved into temporary homes in ocean research centers around Earth. They emerged from biostasis confused but grateful, their skin colors shifting between wonder and joy as they explored their new surroundings. Earth nations, usually slow to agree on anything, moved with surprising speed. Within weeks, they created the Thrilian Integration Project. Land was set aside near warm ocean waters. Construction began on permanent underwater settlements. 6 months later, those settlements were complete. The largest, near a small island in the Pacific Ocean, became known as New Vosh. It featured large bubble domes where humans and Thrilians could meet, and deep-water living spaces designed for Thrilian comfort. Ila, still leader of her people, swam through the clear waters of New Vosh, admiring how earth coral had been planted alongside saved samples from their homeworld. Above her, sunlight filtered through the water, creating patterns of light and shadow that reminded her of Vosh before its decline. On an observation platform that extended into the water, Captain June walked beside her. He no longer wore his space uniform. After returning to Earth, he had resigned his position to work full-time on Thrilian integration. "Do your people like their new home?" he asked. Ila's skin rippled with happy colors. "More than we could have imagined. The children, especially, they have never known such clean water, such freedom." She swam in a slow circle around the platform. "Your people gave up so much for us. Your career, your ship's safety margin, even parts of your own world." "Why?" June smiled. "Because that's what humans do. We help. It's that simple." But it wasn't that simple to the rest of the galaxy. Word of humanity's actions spread quickly through consortium channels. The species that had calculated the Thrilians weren't worth saving, now watched in confusion as humans sacrificed for strangers. 3 consortium observation ships arrived in Earth orbit to study this phenomenon. They monitored news broadcasts, analyzed human behavior patterns, and recorded the developing relationship between humans and Thrilians. What they saw challenged their core beliefs. Humans welcomed the Thrilians not for what resources they could provide or technologies they might share, but simply because they needed help. Even more surprising, the relationship benefited both species. Thrilians turned out to be skilled ocean farmers. Their techniques for growing underwater plants helped feed Earth's growing population. Their understanding of water currents improved weather prediction systems. 1 year after the rescue, the consortium sent an official delegation to Earth. In a formal ceremony, they presented a new assessment of humanity. "We have upgraded your Species status from primitive newcomers to uniquely valuable, the lead representative announced. Our analysis suggests that true advancement may not be measured solely in technology, but also in compassion, a quality your species has demonstrated in exceptional measure. Captain June, sitting in the audience, shared a knowing look with Ela, who watched from a water tank beside the stage. Later that evening, they stood together on the shores of New Vosh, watching Threlian children play in the shallow waters with human children who had learned to swim with webbed gloves. The consortium still doesn't understand, Ela said, her skin pulsing gently. They think compassion is valuable because it produces benefits, June nodded. They're learning, slowly. The water, a human child laughed as a Threlian child changed colors to match her swimsuit. Two species from different worlds, playing together without fear. Perhaps this is how the galaxy changes, Ela said, not through calculations of value, but through simple acts of kindness. One rescue at a time, June agreed. Above them, stars began to appear in the darkening sky, each one a potential home to other species waiting to be found, to be helped, to be welcomed as friends rather than assessed as assets. The end.